Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Bright and early, daily discipline, mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week. Hope you guys are grinding forward. If anybody wants coaching or mentoring, go to my website, skyazrael.com. You can also find me on social media. Just send me a friend's request or a message. You might be going through a hard time right now. A lot of people are. It might be a really hard time for you in a lot of ways. You might be balancing a lot of things right now. And you might feel like that you're sinking, that you're being taken under. You might feel like that you're already there, already in the pit of hell, the belly of the beast, and you're looking for a way out. I've learned to take those times of my life and use them to propel me forward. So you're in a downturn, you're in a bad spot, you feel like things are going the opposite direction of where they should. But you can use that as a slingshot. You know, in a slingshot, you got to pull that sucker way back. The further you pull it back, the farther that stone will launch. If you're scared to go back that far, you may not propel too far. You can just pull it back a little bit to your comfort zone. That's good, that's good. And then that stone doesn't really go very far, and that's your whole existence. So I tell people when they're going through these times, because life can be like a roller coaster, it's a slippery slope, whatever kind of metaphor you want to think about. And we do go backwards sometimes. Everybody sins, everybody has a hard day, a hard week, a hard month, maybe you had a hard year. But you could use that as a slingshot, but the only way that you're going to be able to do that is through introspection, personal growth, mind, body, and soul. If you're looking to blame others for your position, you're going to stay stuck. If you think your weakness is somebody else's fault, it's the power structure, it's the man, it's Babylon, it's the cops, it's your boss, it's your wife, it's everybody but you. Oh, if you had a magic wand and you could just turn everything on its head and be a different person in a different reality, and that's what some people seem to think, and they just sit there like babies, crossing their arms, holding their breath, as if that's a magic trick, as if that's going to work. You have to deal with what hand you are dealt. A little bit hard talking this morning. Maybe I'll take a sip of my tea and get the tongue going. My brother's good at poker. He's played poker, for most of his adult life. Even when he was a teenager, he was playing poker games. He dealt poker at casinos for a while. He dealt poker for the Greek. I don't know how he got hooked up with the fucking Greeks. For the Greek mafia. He used to go to their private poker games. These are high stakes poker games with old men. And he would be the paid dealer. You can't fuck up when you're doing that job. And he really knows the game. And life is like a game, and you gotta really know it. And the interesting thing about him is you can deal him any hand. Doesn't matter, any hand. He doesn't need all aces, he doesn't need a royal flush, he doesn't need anything like that. He could still win with any hand. So you have to learn how to play the hand that you have and turn what you have. Maybe you don't have much. You look at your cards and you're like, this is bullshit. At a certain point, you're just going to have to play those cards or get out of the game. And what does it mean to get out of the game of life? Sit on the side of the road, become a degenerate, some homeless bum, slide backwards all the way to hell and suffer in hell alone? When really fucked up shit happens, when you have a bad hand, you have to learn how to turn that into a win. And the first thing that you should do when you're going through a hard time is look within. The Tao Te Ching talks about those who don't go within, go without. And that has a double meaning. So if you don't go within yourself to solve your problems, you will go without love, without respect, without success, without anything. But also it's more literal, where people who don't go within, who choose not to look in the mirror in a situation, will blame others. And it's not about just personal blame. Okay, so I looked in the mirror and I blamed myself. What next, guy? That's not what I'm saying. Get your head out of this blame game. What is that doing for you? Does that empower you to blame someone else or to blame others? It keeps you a loser. You have to admit that you're fucking up. Admit to yourself. Admit to God, humbly, and promise to do better. And think of ways, specific ways, that you could do better. And this means you have to think of the specific ways that you fucked up. You may need to write this out and be very clear in your mission. Here I've identified 3 areas that went wrong in my actions. And here's 3 or 4 different courses of action. Maybe that's just one good course of action, but here's a counteract. Here's something I can do to move forward, to save myself. And in those moments of self-reflection, at your lowest points, when shit's really hitting the fan, you can change your life and move forward in ways, slingshot forward, propel yourself forward in ways that maybe you never could have before. And then you realize, as you're on this fast track, moving away from what just happened, if you're smart, you'll become thankful. Thankful that you went through that. Some of the hardest times I've had happen to me, I don't regret anymore. I'm thankful for. Because it made me who I am. It made me strong. It made me smart. It made me wickedly smart. It made me successful. One of the reasons why I'm able to do coaching and mentoring successfully and to help people is because I've been through some of this. A coach who's never been through anything is a horrible coach. He's just memorized a program that they taught him at coaching school. How do you plan to raise your son? If you have one. Maybe you're planning to have kids someday. Maybe it's a fantasy, you're not even married or even have a girlfriend, but how would you plan, just as a thought experiment, how would you plan to raise your son? As an example. And what would that example be? Would it be the weakest version of you, the blaming version of you? The version that doesn't take responsibility for anything, that weasels his way out of everything, that points his finger to his neighbors, to the cops, to the structure, to the system, to the government, to everybody else but himself? That's what you're going to teach your son? Even an idiot knows better than that. So you may have to be the father that you never had. Maybe you were never taught some of these lessons. I wasn't. My dad was murdered in 1991, shot in the chest with a shotgun. He died on the operating table as they pulled out the pellets, bled to death, screaming. Only reason why I know that is because it said it in the article, in the newspaper article. I can post it sometime. And the thought of my dad, this big tough guy, gangster, real deal, in the hospital with nurses around him, kicking and screaming. He had to be restrained. He was screaming and yelling, and he died like that. And what was that about? Was it a demon? No, that was the weakest version of him. He was murdered because of his own actions. If he's in hell, he sent himself there. I forget who wrote the story. Was it Kafka? I don't remember who wrote it, but there's a story about hell and how to get out of hell. You send yourself to hell, and there's a bus. In the story, there's a bus, like a school bus or a city bus. There's a bus in hell that goes to heaven every day, several times a day. Anyone can get on that bus. This is all according to the story. But no one ever does. No one ever does. Nobody in hell ever gets on the bus. They could if they want, but they don't. Because they're all shaking their fist at God. Personal responsibility is probably the hardest thing you'll ever go through, the hardest thing you'll ever do, the toughest journey you'll ever take. But this is the rubber band for the slingshot. That personal responsibility, when you're sliding backwards, is what will propel you forward towards your greatness. And this takes hardcore dedication, study, practice, prayer, exercise, nutrition, and purity of heart. The desperate need to be one with God and to be one with your true self. Some people aren't really there yet. You may need to sit in hell and watch that bus go to the bus stop several times before you realize you can get off your dumb ass and get up and go get on it. Food for thought.